All right, here we go. Finally, I waited over a week for other people to see this film before putting this out there. And yes, there are spoilers, so it says so in the description. And if you click on the live stream during this and get mad about spoilers, that's your problem. Um, yeah. So, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. I went to see this last Saturday, and I have to say I had high hopes going in. And during the start, I was really hyped. And maybe that's my fault, but boy, I came out of that film feeling a lot different than I did going in. So Star Wars 8, The Last Jedi. Finally, Luke fucking Skywalker is there. Finally. So it starts off quite good. The First Order have found the Rebel base or the Resistance base, whatever. And they've got a thing called a Dreadnought Star Destroyer with them. So Poe Dameron in his black X-Wing flies up there, and to buy the fleeing rebels time, he starts trolling General Hux. And yeah, sure, it was a little funny at first, but you know, facts are facts. One X-Wing fighter ended up taking out all the surface guns on a Star Destroyer or a Dreadnought, whatever. Okay. The First Order seems totally unfazed by the loss of Starkiller Base. It doesn't seem to have loosened their grip on the galaxy at all. They seem to have clear superior firepower still to the New Republic, or the rebels as they now are. And the New Republic is gone, so you know, that's a bit strange. I thought you would think like a loss of an asset like Starkiller Base would be a bit of a blow to them, but it seems that the First Order is firmly in control of the conflict. The Rebel bombers have been changed. I'm not against changing this, but instead of having Y-wings or A-wings or even B-wings, we've got these big, slow, bulky ships. And of course, they all get destroyed except for one, which gets through the gap. And, you know, in World War II-like fashion, they carpet bomb in space the Dreadnought and destroy it just before it blows away the fleeing rebel cruisers. So there's gravity in space now, apparently. That didn't bother me too much, but from there on out, I started to change in the theater. Now, I'm just going to jump. I'm not going to go through the movie scene by scene. I'm just going to start giving you my problems with this now, this entire film. So once again, spoilers. Okay, so Luke is a complete arsehole. He's an uncaring, cold arsehole. It starts off with the film in the scene at the end of The Force Awakens, where Rey gives him the lightsaber, his father's lightsaber, Anakin's lightsaber, which Mars somehow got from Bespin, the gas giant, where Luke got his arm cut off in The Empire Strikes Back. Mars somehow got that, and Luke gets his lightsaber back, and without saying a word, coldly tosses it over his shoulder, over a cliff. Okay. I guess that was supposed to be humorous. Something that there is an abundance of in this film, abundance of family-friendly humor throughout all scenes. You know, he doesn't seem to care that Chewbacca's there. It took Chewbacca busting through his door for him to say anything, and even then, he doesn't seem to really care that much that Chewie's there. And he didn't know Luke Han was dead, and later on they explain the reason he didn't know is because he apparently shut himself off from the Force because of his guilt over the whole Ben Solo thing. So eventually he promises to give Rey 3 lessons after we go through a hilarious day of him being a farm boy out on the island. You know, that was, that was okay. That was kind of funny. It was just so good to see Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill again, you know. So he promised Rey 3 lessons. He only gave her 2. Told her about the Force, what the Force is, and tried to get her to lift a rock of her mind, which she ended up being drawn beneath the island somehow to the dark side of the Force, which lives there because this is the Jedi island or something. I don't know. They weren't that clear about that, or I just don't remember because I was probably pissed off or agitated from the non-stop family-friendly humor in this film, just like Justice League. That was one of the drawbacks for me with Justice League. Anyway, he doesn't really give her a third lesson. The third lesson, which has been pointed out by other people, is actually for Luke from Yoda. And basically it just means fuck the ancient texts. You don't need all that shit. Rey don't need no training. You know? It's just weird. It's fucking weird. Like, what is he doing on that island? Oh, he went out there to die. Why? Because he was guilty about Ben Solo. Why? Why was he guilty about that? Well, because Luke's a bad teacher. After proving that with his encounter with Rey, he proves he's a very bad teacher with his whole thing with Han and Leia's son, Ben, who turns out to be Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren gets turned to the dark side without ever meeting Snoke, which, again, makes no sense. Maybe he did meet Snoke, but they weren't clear on that. So me gathering from this backstory they're explaining about how Kylo Ren turned to the dark side, it turns out they never met. And Luke sensing this darkness within him, okay, instead of, relating because of his own late training and he was tempted to join the dark side of the Force himself when he nearly killed Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. He just gets frightened by this, as he was frightened when he saw Rey went straight to the dark side, but she wasn't seduced. And Ben Solo hadn't been seduced by the dark side yet either. Luke Skywalker is the fucking reason the Sith are back. He's a terrible teacher. Instead of talking to the boy, instead of trying to help his student, he does what can only be explained as him, again, being a bad teacher. He tries to kill Ben Solo and fails because he hesitated. That makes no sense to me. Okay, Luke's whole attitude and the things that he says are not Luke Skywalker-esque. These aren't something that a hero says. This is something that a withering old weakling says. Luke has no spark. He decided to kill Ben Solo. That's incredible to me. It's an incredible thing. And if this wasn't bad enough, Luke then gets beaten up by Rey. Yes, Rey gets the better of Luke in a fight. So now this untrained chick who only learned about the Force like a month ago is getting the better of the most powerful Jedi ever. Okay. Makes sense. Makes lots of sense. Fuck that. I'm sorry, fuck that. Rey should not be beating up Luke and then him sitting there crying, this isn't gonna end the way you think. Oh my god, dude. You know what Rey should have done? Rey should have turned on her lightsaber and killed Luke there. Rey's power is so ridiculous. Snoke even addressed this shit, where she beats fully trained Jedi without ever picking up a lightsaber prior, without ever being trained in the Force, without meditating, any of this stuff. And she's not the chosen one. Anakin Skywalker was the chosen one. He did bring balance to the Force. But okay, the lore doesn't matter. Fuck that. I have a big problem with the end fight between Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren, even though it isn't actually a fight. And they kind of ripped off Obi-Wan talking to Anakin a little bit with, I have failed you. I have failed you. Come on, that is weak. People are saying this shit's original. It is not. It is not original. Think really hard about every scene in that film, and it is really not that original. As a whole, the movie is really not original. It's just, God, it was terrible. Sorry. I'm trying not to shit on this film. But Luke shouldn't have been a hologram. If he was gonna die, if he was gonna pass on, then he should have had a more meaningful death than the one that he had. Okay? I don't understand. Jesus. Like, I don't understand why he died. Why did he die? He was sitting there meditating, projecting a hologram across the galaxy. I've never seen that done with the Force. Never heard of it in any comic, in any fucking cartoon. It's really strange. Didn't know the Force could do that. Just like something else I'm going to get to soon about the Force being magic. But of course, this next part, I really want to put emphasis on this though. Luke, what the fuck killed Luke? Why did he die? Can someone tell me why Luke died? He was only like 66. Did he have a heart attack? Like, I agree that the whole two suns and that stuff, yeah, that's kind of fitting, but it should have been on that moon where Kylo Ren cuts him down, then he disappears. Doesn't make sense. It's just such a wrong way to send off Luke Skywalker. And now the Skywalkers are all gone, except for Kylo Ren, I guess. But all the Skywalker men are gone, because Kylo Ren ain't much of a man. Not at the moment. But, what killed Luke? That's what I want to know. Okay, so Rey's backstory, something that was that was greatly discussed and speculated upon. Rey's backstory is that she had drunken parents and she was sold to slavery for that. She has no lineage to the Jedi or to any of the Skywalkers. Okay. Talk about a letdown. Rey is already the most powerful Jedi. She's now bested Kylo Ren on 2 occasions, and after defeating him in The Force Awakens, which Snoke in the film actually brings up, after Rey and Kylo Ren are battling for Anakin's lightsaber, where it splits apart and explodes, Rey recovers first and gets out of there. And he wakes up and he has no idea what the fuck's happened. So, Rey just doesn't seem very interesting to me. I mean, what has she got to overcome here? The only one stronger than her was Snoke, and he's dead, which is coming up. Now, just before Rey recovered from the exploding lightsaber, Kylo Ren and Rey teamed up, and this was awesome. This was really good. This chemistry works. It just feels like it's interesting, and there's so many places where you can take this. But instead, after cock teasing it, they just ended it. It seemed like Kylo Ren turned to the light side of the Force and then turned to the dark side again. Why does he want to rule the galaxy exactly? And why is he trying to kill his mother now after failing to kill her earlier? Like, he chose not to do it. So, I don't like that they teamed up and then they ripped it apart again. That felt really like a deflating experience. So Snoke. Snoke was nothing special. He was powerful with the Force, but, in the last movie, he said it was time for Kylo Ren to complete his training, where all he did was shit on him. Said he was a little bitch in a mask, basically. Got bested by a girl who never had a day's training in her life, which made him rage out and break his mask. He's stronger than Rey. He can see into her mind, but couldn't sense that Ben Solo was going to kill him. We never found out anything about who he was or where he comes from. He just dies, and that's it. Kylo Ren takes over the First Order. Huh? Good God. So, Snoke, he was built up to be this Palpatine-like villain. Not actually Palpatine, but like the main villain of the Sith for this trilogy. He's dead already, and we don't know anything about him. Kylo Ren isn't scary. He's not intimidating. He's not, and really that, he's not a scary bad guy. Like, the dude's lost on numerous occasions already, and Rey seems to be an obstacle for him. I'm kind of rooting for Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren's really the most interesting thing left in Star Wars now for me. But dude, you ain't, this guy, there's nothing that with the aura of a Darth Vader kind of character about him. Darth Vader never lost a single fight until Return of the Jedi. right at the end, and Luke had to use the dark side, or dip into the dark side to defeat him. But Luke turns back to the light and refuses to kill Darth Vader. And then finally, Anakin Skywalker comes back to the light and fulfills his destiny. So Kylo's, he doesn't kill Leia. He's about to do it, and then he can't do it. So he won't kill his mother, but he'll kill his father. Oh, God. Shouldn't he hate her more since she's the Jedi? Since she's the one that sent him away? Since she's the one that got him involved in all this shit? Shouldn't most of his insecurities actually be about his mother, not his father? And then the following scene, after his wingman fired missiles into the bridge of the rebel ship, causing Leia to go flying out into space, where Leia used the Force after being out in space for a couple of minutes. Felt like a couple of minutes. She uses the Force, which I've never seen her do before, and she pulls herself back in right up to an airlock and into the ship, and survives. Stupid. Running out of fuel was a stupid plot line. These things are ships in the future. There's never been talk of fuel in Star Wars before. I thought I read somewhere that they run on fusion. So, and I've seen other people in the Star Wars community talk about this, so I don't get that. That was not a good plot line. So they're having a very, very slow chase through space where 2 frigates run out of fuel and they get destroyed. And then they run to this moon where there's a former rebel base, blah, blah, blah. Not ideal. The magical hyperspace tracking was bullshit as well. I'm sorry. In The Empire Strikes Back, the Millennium Falcon got tracked because it had a tracking device on it. There's no tracking device. So this whole plot line that unfolded into the waste of time that's about to follow was, all of this is just completely pointless. So Poe being kept in the dark on the plan to get to that base on that moon and use the cruiser as a battering ram with light speed. Okay, that plan, Poe being that made no sense because Poe goes on to make a dick of himself and make pointless plans with Finn and the new character Rose. So, Poe contacts Mars. Somehow he knows Mars. And Mars says they need a code breaker. Okay. Okay, so they're going to sneak onto this ship that's chasing... Oh, God. Anyway, they need a code breaker. And this leads to a really, really cringy sequence. They go to a planet which is full of rich people gambling and abusing animals. And they sell weapons to the First Order, and they sell X-Wings to the Resistance. Oh my God! That was kind of sad. And then there was just fucking, Rose and Finn escape with a code breaker and also set loose these animals that were racing around the track that the rich evil people were betting on. Finn says they're about to get captured, and Finn says, I guess it's worth it. Rose takes off the saddle and says, now it's worth it. Okay, that was fucking cringy. And virtue signaling. Okay, virtue signaling about the rich, virtue signaling about animal cruelty, and virtue signaling just in general. Maybe even a little interracial virtue signaling there. Why am I saying interracial? Because you've stripped both these characters back to being useless. They're nothing. Both of them are nothing. And that's not the actor's fault. That's the person writing the script's fault. Hyperspace is not a weapon. Okay, this has never been established. This has never been a thing. Otherwise, why would they not just fly X-Wing fighters through one of the smaller cruisers through the Star Destroyers that are chasing them with autopilot on? Why did that chick sacrifice herself? Like, I guess the bridge was out and they couldn't set an autopilot, but it made no sense. So much of this film made no sense. And in every one of these scenes I'm talking about is fucking family-friendly humor. The whole Hoth throwback wasn't necessary. Okay, it wasn't. I didn't like it. Another scene where we're in a trench and we're shooting just like on Hoth, just like on Hoth, just like in the last film. The thing that annoyed me, one of the things that annoyed me the most about the last one was the trench scene on Starkiller Base. Really, guys, come up with something that isn't a ripoff. Okay, Jesus. Can you tell this irritates me? Finn should have died, okay, with some purpose. Make him out to be a hero. Don't just keep him around for no reason. None of the new characters have died. And Finn was about to die in a meaningful way and buy people time to escape, the rebels time to escape. But instead, Rose rams into him and stops him from being useful. And then they have a kiss in front of advancing AT-ATs and stuff like that. Because they're in love. And her face looks so stupid when she rammed him. So, what the fuck's the point in these two? Just virtue signaling about interracial sexuality? Like, come on. Like, you cheapen Finn out and give him no purpose, and you cheapen more. Man, these people are they comic relief? Is that their purpose? But that love story is lame. I'm sorry. Kylo Ren versus Luke was anticlimactic. Yeah, and it would have worked. If he sacrificed himself, cool. What's cool about AT-ATs and all these guys blasting at Luke if he's not there, if he's just a hologram? That's not impressive. Okay, this is the most powerful Jedi ever, right? So, comes out, he doesn't actually go, I don't recall his lightsaber ever touching Kylo Ren's. I could be wrong. But I think I was getting distracted because during this scene, there was still family-friendly comedy. There's still family-friendly comedy happening. So that scene still could have worked if Luke had just been there, had died there, and had sacrificed himself in a meaningful way, not fucking in the middle of nowhere on some shit island, on some backward planet. Captain Phasma is not a good character. She's a nothing. She's a 6'5" chick, and she hates FN 8127. Beats the crap out of her and beats her half to death, and then kicks her into a fireball. So she's probably going to come back because that's Star Wars. She's an officer, a fully trained officer, and couldn't beat Finn, who's just a low-level grunt. Okay, sure, why not? At least Finn did something, right? There was seriously way too much family-friendly humor. All the time, non-stop. Even when they were trying to be serious, there was family-friendly humor put in there. From right when Luke threw that lightsaber over his shoulder, from the trolling of Hux, from those stupid little furball things going, like, shrieking at the camera, right in the middle of Kylo Ren versus Luke Skywalker, with Chewbacca there, the token fucking comic relief as well. Too much. Okay, Star Wars was never a comedy film. Name one Star Wars film before The Force Awakens which had even anywhere close to this level of comic relief. Failed, childish, PG comic relief. I don't like Chewbacca. So Chewbacca has become an afterthought, like R2-D2. Good times. Oh, you just want all the original characters. I want the original characters to have a fucking purpose. And if they're gonna die, make it for something. So Kylo Ren is the only good character left. He's still an underdog. He's got to beat Rey the obstacle. He should be undefeated until now. He should have been doing evil shit. He should have been the villain. And right now, the villain is the character you're kind of rooting for because he has the most shit to deal with. Despite having a superior army, to having superior firepower, no. And they still haven't worked out how to deal with little rebel ships. Like, really? 30 or 40 years of war and you still don't know what to do? The Rey-Kylo Ren connection works really well. It really works. That could have been amazing. And like I said, it could have unfolded and given all these interesting offshoots to the story, but instead they decided to, meh. Kylo Ren's going to turn back to the dark side and want to kill his mother again. You know, I was really disappointed with the way that ended. So those are my thoughts on Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I agree with the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. I agree with the 56 or 55% rating. I can see half of the people going to see this, just about half, being disappointed with these fucking weird things and with the way you treat certain characters, with how, like, and it's not just the old characters, your new characters like Rose and Finn have been sold short and given, and Poe, given completely pointless story arcs that and nothing. Like, you did nothing with them. This is not a good Star Wars film. This is another example of the critics having no credibility because they came out crowing about it, saying it was the greatest one ever. It is not the greatest one ever. It is on the level of the Phantom Menace. Okay? This is not a good Star Wars film. It's one of the worst.